Hi, everybody. Welcome. Matt and Paul here from Fiduciary Wealth. And today we're going to be talking about foreign exchange, currency exchange, maybe a couple of tips on, what to do, what not to do, what to avoid, the importance of certain things. Um, I'm sure you understand what foreign exchange is, but we're help you out a little bit. So, Paul, take it away. What can we tell people today about some things to do?
Well, yeah. Well, I started my career in financial services in Forex, and I can tell you that things have changed quite considerably since then. I remember if I digress slightly, because it's not just Forex, it's also international money transfers. When I started in financial services in private banking in 1989, you used to do an international money transfer, and it was done via Swift or Telex. In fact, we migrated to Swift just about the same time that I started. Um, and it was Telex, and it was a labor intensive process to transfer. And yet the charges were very reasonable then, £25. I think nowadays they charge not on the effort that's required to make a international money transfer, but just a margin on the value of the transfer.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're doing a transfer of 200,000 and the charge is, I don't know, 0.2%, you're paying an, you know, exorbitant amount of in bank fees, which are completely unnecessary. Thinking how technology has evolved, the process is much um, faster, better, and should be cheaper now than it was then. And yet you're paying, a 10, 20x of what you potentially, depending on the value of the transfer, than what you were doing then. So I think banks in general, because they are quoted companies and there's so much greed involved, they see it as a money earner, and they've really, exploited that need in the marketplace by overcharging for those services.
Yeah.
And the same happens with Forex, something I know incredibly well. The margins have increased significantly. Sometimes they charge up to 3 or more% for an exchange. And if you're talking of a transfer of, let's say, £500,000 to buy a property somewhere involving an exchange, sterling to euros. I know that this doesn't apply to Gibraltar, but it could, because you could have a UK national moving to Gibraltar and then buying a second home in Spain. And if you're paying 3%, then you're paying, what is that, 15,000,
Yeah.
when you could be paying, 3 or 4 grand at most. So, yeah, competitive currency exchange rates is is really, really important. Don't go with a bank because it's the easiest. And of course, you have to find a trusted forex partner. And we may argue that there's not a lot around, but there's a few of really professional firms which are and who have the regulatory badges, regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA in the UK, that should give anyone reassurance that they are as regulated as banks in London or elsewhere. So you've got the protections, and they follow UK regulation, and you can trust them wholeheartedly. Some of them are even quoted on AIM, and they can take care of your forex, and you can make considerable savings, because sometimes we don't consider these things. We just almost do it without any thinking involved. Okay, I need it, I'll go to my bank. No, there's a better way of doing it, there's a smarter way of doing it, there's a cheaper way of doing it. And we always try, as part of our service, of embedding value to the customer and building that trust that is so important to us. We like pointing them in the direction of partners who we trust and know that they're going to add value, speed of execution, you know, no bank bureaucracy. Um, Interest of the client is paramount, and they can do it for a fraction of the price. And, as a trusted advisor, why wouldn't we point our clients in the direction of a service that is going to embed value? That's, it's almost in our DNA. It's all
No,
about adding value.
yeah, absolutely. And we've seen some really good providers and unfortunately some very bad ones where we've had clients who have maybe been directed by a friend or maybe a solicitor or something like that and yeah, it's easy for the cost to build up with the spread. What about things like a lot of people these days, Paul, are using Revolut, which for those who are not familiar is a kind of online banking app which has different currencies. What about the use of things like Revolut, Paul?
I use Revolut personally for small transactions, and for small transactions, they can be very competitive on price. But what we find and what I find, if it's a larger transaction, then they almost like a bank when it comes, and even more obsessed with you know due diligence, and it becomes cumbersome. They block your transfer, they don't execute it on time. But if you open an account with a trusted Forex partner, they'll open the account immediately. And once the account is open and is done relatively painlessly, and once it's open and you want to execute, you execute fairly quickly. Revolut there's no point of contact. You're not talking to a human, you're talking to a bot. That is the downside. And,
Yeah,
I believe in artificial intelligence. I believe that that's a future, but for services where emotion is so important, you want to talk to a person. I hear that many times from our customers. You've come across that too, Matt, that I don't want to talk to a call center somewhere in Asia. I want to talk to someone in my bank, and you can't do that anymore. Well, with Revolut, when it comes to larger transactions, it's a no-go.
yeah. And it's so vitally important if it is a large transaction. And normally we're talking about, maybe people selling their property and buying in a new area, sale of investments, and they're moving it into a new currency. I mean, from my point of view, when you're dealing with that amount of money, to not have someone that you can trust dealing with it is madness, is it not?
It's complete madness. Look, speed of execution, ease of transacting, um, and then of course the massive cost savings. You save thousands of pounds,
Yeah,
pa- money that you can use for something else. Why are you gifting the banks and providers like Revolut with money that you could have in your pocket? And it is it's a no-brainer, really. If you stop and think and analyze, it really is a no-brainer, and we can facilitate that through trusted partners, to as we've always said, to give that extra bit of value. Um,
yeah,
that's what we take pride in, that we really take care of the process on an A to Z basis. Yeah, every little detail is taken care of when someone is relocating.
yeah. And I guess that is a point because someone's relocating, it's it's a really stressful experience. There's so many things to take into account. And I guess what we're trying to say is, having people like us who can facilitate all those different things and just because okay, we don't do the FX themselves. The fact that we can direct you immediately to a person who we trust and can facilitate that. And that's another kind of tick on your relocation box and yeah, trying to make it as smooth as possible is the aim. Perfect. So great. So that concludes today's video. So if you are looking for a trusted advisor who can guide you and hold your hand through that relocation process, Fiduciary Wealth, we're here to help you. So feel free to reach out. Thank you for now. Bye bye.